Unit 9 is when we're going to start engaging with some of the theories and ideas around marketing and how marketing and branding and understanding consumers and the general perspective on a marketing approach and how that informs what value is, what value creation is, and so on. I mean, one of the things that I think is quite unique about marketing in all of the business administration subjects is that in a sense we're all already marketing experts, and we've got an immense amount of marketing knowledge even if we've never studied marketing or never worked in marketing. And the reason that we're all experts in marketing is we're obviously all buyers, we're all shoppers, yeah? And because we all shop, we all buy, we know how to work the marketplace as a consumer. That gives us an immense amount of knowledge and insights into what marketing is, what organisations are trying to do to us when they give us marketing information or marketing initiatives and so on. And we need to build on that innate knowledge that we have as consumers in order to really understand the value creation process and marketing's place in that. We all see advertising, promotion all the time in social media, in the built environment around us, whether or not it's on TV or in press or in billboards or whatever. In fact, nowadays it's getting quite difficult to separate out the difference between actual commercial advertising and promotion content and just general media content. They're being brought together. But we know when marketing communications is being targeted towards us and trying to persuade certain types of things. So again, we're all kind of experts at reading and understanding marketing communications. We all know how to evaluate products and services because we are buyers and so on. So in a sense, we're kind of experts at judging value, yeah? I assume that you all know where to get the products and services that you want and that you need and so on. In a sense, you're experts in accessing marketing channels. Maybe some of you buy a lot of stuff online, or you prefer to go to shopping malls or whatever, or using other direct channels. The point is, we all know how we can get value by using our understanding of distribution. And of course, increasingly as well, we all know how to make our voices heard as consumers if we're not happy, if we want to make a complaint. And we don't always use the mechanisms that organisations set up for us in order to complain. We might go onto social media, onto Twitter, onto Facebook, all kinds of places to report our good and our bad experiences. So there's just a few examples of me illustrating how actually you've already got an immense amount of marketing knowledge that you can bring to your understanding of the value creation process, and some of the other ideas that we've pulled on in the earlier units around how innovation and how operations management can work together in order to create value. And you're kind of the product of that because you're a consumer, yeah? Now, let me just give you some illustrations of how much a marketing expert you are. The first experiment I'm going to ask you to do is this, okay? Next time you go into a supermarket or into a mall or whatever, have a look around and at the shopping carts and locate a shopping cart where the customer is away looking for another product or service. Have a quick look in the cart. You need to be careful not to, linger too long, or it might be a bit of an embarrassing situation. But take a look inside that shopping cart. Take a look at the products that are in that cart, and then very quickly see what you could tell about the customer whose cart that belongs to, okay? Could you tell their gender, their age? Could you tell if they've got kids? Could you tell, what other things might you be able to tell, what their profession or their occupation is, or whatever it might be? What it shows you is this, is that in a split second you can read brands, brand meanings and products, okay? And you can see straight away what those things mean. And just as you're able to do it with a shopping cart of goods of somebody that you've never met, just think what you're able to do when you've got more information. Here's another experiment that you can do. How many of you got an iPhone in your pocket? Okay, how many of you got an iPhone in your pocket? Well, why have you? For those that you are iPhone users, why? Why do you pay a price premium for an iPhone? Yeah. The reason is that you might tell yourself that it's because you're creative or a bit kind of different from other kind of people, that you're a bit cooler, a bit more trendy, a bit more part of a kind of global connected consumer segment. Okay, well what you're actually doing is that little box in your pocket, that mobile phone, that is a way that you construct your identity. It's a way in which you say something about who you are, not just to other people, but to yourself. And you also use it as a membership into a certain type of club, yeah? You're all in the club that is Apple, yeah? Now, in most times, that's an imagined community, an imagined brand community. But part of who we are, part of the identity that we have, is maintained and built up through the brands that we associate ourselves with, okay? Another experiment. Next time you go onto YouTube to watch a video, count how quickly does it take you to skip the ad, okay? Sometimes now they're putting in techniques that mean that we have to watch it for 2 or 3 seconds or whatever, but we can flip to another screen or open another tab or do something else while they're forcing us to watch this 2 seconds of marketing communications. What does that show us? Well, that simple experiment shows us this. You're an expert at screening out, yeah, of removing and all of that unwanted marketing clutter and marketing message that you don't want to see, yeah? So how, from a marketing point of view, do we communicate value with customers that skip the ad? Okay, we have to find new ways of communicating with them. How about this? Where you live, where you work, you might, there are all kinds of products that we might choose that have ethical values, like fair trade products, for example, or organic produce, or locally produced products, or whatever, yeah? What that experiment shows you have a look in your products and your things that you buy regularly, and you make an ethical and social evaluation about them, yeah? Your consumer choices then have ethical, social, and political consequences, and you know what they are, okay? So, try those little types of experiments, okay? And you'll realise just how much of marketing is saturated into your everyday lives, yeah? And hopefully what that will also enable you to do is to start thinking about marketing in a slightly more reflexive way, yeah? Think about your everyday practices that you undertake, and then ask yourself, well, how is the market implicated in this? What's my role in this as a consumer? So we're in a period where marketing is so ubiquitous, it's everywhere, okay? It's everywhere in terms of the physical environment that we live and work in. It's everywhere in terms of the way in which we structure our social lives and so on, yeah? It's certainly everywhere online, yeah? And so it's probably surprising for me to say this, but marketing currently is in a state of crisis. The marketing industry is in a state of crisis, yeah? And it has been for quite some time. Now, why? Why, in an age where marketing, this seems to be the golden age of marketing in one sense, but in another sense, it's a period where the marketing industry itself is in a crisis point, okay? And the reason it comes down to value creation. It's not clear how marketing necessarily contributes to value creation. Yeah, and it's also not clear how some of the alternative ways that we are creating value as consumers, okay, is going to emerge to challenge markets. Let me give you some examples. Marketing is in crisis because of technology. So in some of the units that you've looked at on innovation, and in some of those looking at operations, technology plays a key role, and it usually is represented as a positive form of impact in the firm, if you like, yeah? So technology produces new products, new processes, and so on. But this technology also creates new products and services, which is good, but it creates new ways to deliver them, new ways to promote them and communicate them. Okay, and that makes marketing more difficult. Okay. Here in the UK, if we go back a decade or so, there was essentially one or maybe two television channels, okay, that carried commercial content, advertisements, yeah? You could be pretty sure if you put a commercial on one of those channels at a peak viewing time, maybe around a popular soap opera or a television or a news broadcast, that you pretty much get access to something like a third, if not a half, of the UK viewing population. Well, now the average household has probably got access to hundreds of television channels, and they probably don't watch any of them, if many of them, okay? Because our media consumption has become so much more fragmented, yeah? So on the one hand, technology creates all these wonderful things, but it makes the job of marketing more difficult. Another reason why marketing is in crisis is because of globalization, okay? On the one hand, globalization means emerging markets. It means global brands. It means global corporations, yeah? Okay, and they are in some ways great assets for marketing. Think about the truly global brands that all of us have access to. So we talked about Apple, for example, a moment ago. Apple, Interbrand values Apple at something like $20 billion. That's just the brand, okay? But what also comes with globalization are global shocks, okay? Global information is quick, okay? So something that happens with a product or a brand in one part of the world is communicated everywhere instantly. Think of a brand like Volkswagen, for example, and the recent scandal over emissions. That kind of story wasn't just a story that affected one country or one part of the market. It was a global phenomena almost instantaneously. The benefits of globalization are also the big challenges and for marketing as well, yeah? Basically, globalization makes things a lot less easy to manage, and that means it makes marketing less easy to manage. Marketing is in crisis because of consumer culture and consumer behavior. On the one hand, we're seeing the emergence of many, many more consumer segments because of globalization. But think about the other things that we're seeing things that we're seeing as well that are shaping markets. Reactionary and popularist politics, for example, that we're seeing in certain parts of the world, yeah? In a sense, we're seeing politics becoming a bit like a brand, or a bit like a soap opera, or a bit like reality television. We're mixing together all of these media events. So something that's really, really important, like who is the president or the leader of a country, it appears that we're kind of making a decision like that in the same way that we might decide what brand of soda we want to drink or whatever, yeah? And some people are really concerned about the impact of a consumer culture on some of those decision-making processes. There's a crisis in marketing around environmental impact, okay? We all want affluent consumer lifestyles. Now, affluent consumer lifestyles weren't so much of a problem when it was only North America, Western Europe, and a little bit of Southeast Asia that had access to those things. But now we're in because of globalization, because of technology, because of consumer culture, we all want affluent consumer lifestyles, okay? Or rather, few of us seem to be willing to give them up. But the environmental impact of that is huge. The impact in terms of the depletion of natural resources, the over-reliance on hydrocarbons and its impact upon climate change, for example. Marketing is partly responsible with that outcome, okay? And when we talk about value creation processes, we're talking about creating certain types of value, but what kinds of other things, other consequences is marketing also implicated in that goes along with that value creation? And finally, marketing is in crisis because of demographics, because of population growth, because of aging populations, and because of migration. And we're going to continue to see these kinds of demographic issues become more and more important in shaping how markets develop, okay? So what I'm really trying to emphasize to you here is when we study the principles of marketing, it's really, really important for us to not focus too specifically on a purely set of managerial assumptions. It makes us what Ted Levitt, who's a famous marketing guru from the 1980s, 1990s, said it creates marketing myopia, short-sightedness. We focus on everyday individual decisions within a firm and forget the big picture. If we want to genuinely talk about how marketing helps to create value, then we need to understand all of those contexts. So Unit 9 is going to be all about understanding the principles of marketing, how those principles of marketing feed into the value creation process, and also what's the broader impact and consequences of marketing. I'll call that session the marketing imagination, and in it we'll look at the marketing concept, marketing and innovation, how those two things go together, how marketing understands the idea of customer value. We'll also look at something that you've probably heard of, which is the marketing mix, or the 4 Ps of price, product, place and promotion. And we'll also then go on to think about how increasingly marketing and successful value creation is about developing successful relationships between firms and customers, but increasingly relationships between organizations in supply chains. And finally, I want to consider how marketing is structured in the modern organization, and how perhaps some of our assumptions about how it's structured might not actually map on very well to how marketing is actually practiced today.